Welcome to Ask the Expert, an award-winning daily live show from 8:30 to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. If you have any questions, please do ask them in the comments of the live feed. And if you need any more advice, please do join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook, where there are accountants and business experts on hand 24/7. During today's live session, we are running a poll, so please do engage with it and I will reveal the results at the end. So for those of you that have joined me before, thank you so much for joining again. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Eriona. I'm the Managing Director of Majors Accounts, which is a small family-run accountancy practice based in South East London. I'm a qualified chartered certified accountant with the ACCA, and the Majors Accounts services businesses in all areas, all industries, across the board. Over the years, we've been really lucky to have involvement with a lot of businesses in all industries, and the majority are SMEs, so with the self-employed, limited companies and owner-managed businesses. Since becoming Managing Director of Majors Accounts, I've spearheaded and implemented a digitalisation strategy. Now everything is done online using an array of different technology and apps which all feed into QuickBooks to create an elevated experience, not just for our team who are using the latest cutting edge technology, but also for our clients. There's now a convenience and time saving because clients don't need to come and see us if they don't want to. Everything can be done online by Zoom, for example, and it allows for our national and soon to be global reach also. And this was the idea of becoming a cloud-based firm, was to bring the client accountant relationship closer. And we are a family-run practice, so treating our team and clients like family is one of our core values and cultures, and we believe it really helps to build an excellent rapport with our clients and the team. So now we believe that technology brings us closer and we become the virtual finance director for our clients, but without the expensive price tag that usually is associated with that. So over the years, our efforts haven't gone unnoticed. Majors Accounts have been nominated for a number of awards. British Accountancy Awards nominated us for top firm in Greater London for the last 2 years in a row. And we've been featured in the Parliamentary magazine for 2017 in the accounting and financial services sector, showcasing best practice within our industry. And I myself have been nominated for a few awards by the Women in Accountancy and Finance Awards 2020 and Top 50 Women in Accounting globally for the last 2 years in a row. So enough about us. Obviously, one of the main things that is at the forefront of everyone's mind, our lives day in, day out is all about, what's been happening for the last year, COVID, and how it's affecting people's health, but also businesses and livelihoods. There have been new reliefs that have been announced by the government to try and help businesses as there have been over the last year, but some of the latest ones are a new business rates relief. So this fund will provide a 1.5 billion tranche of support to businesses outside of the retail, hospitality and leisure sectors affected by COVID. The funding will be allocated by local authorities based on the stock of properties in each area and for those affected by COVID. And they will allocate this out based on their knowledge of businesses and the local economy. So we don't know yet how that will be applied for, but I believe it may well be the same as a discretionary grant, so through the local council's websites. Now, there is also a new fund called the Welcome Back Fund. So as lockdown measures begin to be eased, a new package of support measures to help high streets and coastal areas actually across England has been announced by the Community Secretary, Robert Jenrick. And this will be £56 million to help those businesses. Now we're getting used to the idea that vaccines or various vaccines will provide some defense against COVID outbreaks. What would a vaccine for our businesses attempt to prevent? So we have a few strategies that you might like to consider that would help you survive any more periods of lockdown that the governments may be forced to consider. And cash flow is one of the key reasons that businesses fail, and which was evident during the events of the last year. those who didn't have enough cash reserves really struggled. Now, one of the ways to try and help out is to retain profit. So if you're fortunate enough and you can reopen your business as lockdown restrictions are eased and you manage to re-establish profitability, do try and hang on to some of those profits. Retained profits, so after tax has been paid, are the fat on the bone of your business. If retained profits are growing, this must mean that your business assets are also increasing. And should a further period of lockdown or similar reductions of trade be experienced, these retained profits may provide you with the resources to weather any downturn in trade. Similarly, as I've just mentioned, retaining cash is so important. So what I mean about this is to try and save some of your hard-won profits in your bank. So during periods of low activity, these cash reserves will help to maintain liquidity, and during times of rapid increases in turnover, they will insulate you from the downside of overtrading. So that's when money due from customers does not come in fast enough to meet payments to suppliers and settle other overheads. Now, managing cash can be really difficult, and there are so many elements to consider. And we all know that one of the main reasons that businesses do fail is due to cash. And a lot of the time, this is because there aren't adequate processes in place to collect your money. And I believe that there was a statistics recently that nearly 60% of late payments are usually because people forget. And that's, anyone can do that. It's not because they don't want to pay, but they genuinely do forget. So that's why it's so important to have a procedure in place to ensure this is chased up, to help remind people to pay earlier. Now, a lot of the time, small businesses do give credit to customers to entice them, but you must think, where are these small businesses getting credit from themselves to be able to provide it? A lot of the time, nowhere. They're using it from their own profits, which can be really detrimental to the business. And you have to think, how long can you provide this? And as you grow, it becomes so much more difficult. And many feel awkward to request money and do not consider a number of different options to entice customers to pay. So if you're able to get customers to pay a portion of fees up front and the rest in installments or once the goods or services have been delivered, is one way. There are many businesses also that entice customers to pay as early as possible by giving them an incentive such as a discount if you pay, for example, within a week. Now, this may seem that you're losing money, but actually a lot of the time you're getting the money now, so it's much more valuable to you now rather than later on down the line. It could be months down the line. And there are some customers where if you leave it so long and it builds up, or it's just generally a long time, since they've had the good or service, for example, they will then start to question whether, that service was actually provided or not. And then you get into all sorts of trying to collect that money. It becomes costly, and the chances of recovering it are slim once you get that far. So I think that's a really great way of trying to get your money as early as possible. But there are also other payment methods. So there are apps out there which can collect money for you. So if you're using a software, for example, such as QuickBooks, where you raise your invoice on QuickBooks, you can connect it to different apps which will collect the money itself. So for example, Go Cardless will collect the money. It will realize as soon as an invoice has been raised, it will collect it within a week or two, depending on the setting that you set. And that's via direct debit. So you've got peace of mind that you don't actually have to intervene in that process. It's done automatically. If people don't like to sign up to direct debit, then you've got other software such as Chaser or Satago that can do the chasing for you. So basically this will eliminate the chance of late payments. And there are also obviously card payment facilities which are not as expensive and really easy to set up. For example, Square. Fees are not too expensive either. For a small business, they are manageable. And also for those that are extreme late payers, a lot of people don't know that you can charge interest on late payments as well. In terms of expenses as well, with suppliers, you need to consider, are you able to possibly get credit from your suppliers? A lot of the time you need some time to build up knowledge with suppliers for them to allow you to do this. But it's surprising. We see our clients that have been with their suppliers for years and they don't have any credit terms whatsoever because they've always thought, no, I may not need it. I'll be able to survive on the cash that I have. But that's something to consider. Most likely you will get it, and there's only one way of finding out, and that's asking. The worst they can say is no. So there are two simple tactics. These are two simple tactics worth considering as regional UK governments take steps to ease current lockdown restrictions. And whilst they are unlikely to immunise your business against aspects of COVID disruption, they may offer you the resources to fight off at least the worst effects. I see questions are coming in, so I'm going to start taking those now. So we've got a question from Jacob from Instagram who says, hi, I've read that the amount you can earn before paying any income tax increases this year. Does this apply to all businesses? I have a limited company. So this doesn't apply to limited companies. In fact, the income thresholds, the tax thresholds have been frozen this year, so they're not increasing. So it's going to be the same as last year for the time being. But for limited companies, there has been a change in corporation tax that will come into effect from next year as well, not this year. So this year is still 19%. We have a question from Nakib from Twitter who says, I've underestimated the cost of setting up my own business. Lots of small costs that build up that I was not aware of. Currently trying to make a more realistic plan. Do you have any advice? I would say, so obviously when setting up a business, there are huge costs, but if you're just trialing out, if you're able to not buy things in bulk initially, depending on the kind of business that you have, but you want to test out the waters to see whether your business is going to succeed or not. You don't want to be, although you will get discounts for purchasing things in bulk, you don't know whether those things are going to be sold yet or not. So maybe worth buying them slightly more expensive right now. But if you can see that actually it's worth buying them, then later on down the line, when you have generated some cash and some income, then go down the route of increasing how much you buy. In terms of technology as well, advertising and those kind of setup costs are really high initially. So consider, social media. There are platforms that are free that you can try and advertise your business from. Obviously, a website is important because a lot of people will go on Google first of all to see whether you exist or not, to see whether you're trustworthy. But I would say, things like Instagram and Facebook are a great place to start to advertise for minimal costs. Even for advertising, you could spend £5 to £10 and it can reach thousands of people within those apps. So things like that I would consider as well. Apps, for example, for the accounting side, bookkeeping, things like that. I really recommend QuickBooks. That's what we use. We're a QuickBooks only firm, just because apart from having the compliance side of having the paperwork and everything in place, there are loads of different apps that can help you run your business. As I mentioned, one for payment. You can attach a CRM to it. You can really do everything with it to not only to help your processes in your business and become more efficient. And these are relatively inexpensive compared to other systems which you might have to try and either build yourself or other softwares out there. So I hope that's helped a little bit at least. We have a question now from Ebele from Instagram who says, I'm in talks with a potential new client overseas and I'm wondering if there's anything I should think about when invoicing a client outside the UK. So invoicing, if you're based in the UK, your invoicing will be the same whether they're in the UK or outside of the UK anyway. So there's not much else to consider. It depends, how competitive you will be because you're going to have to add VAT if you're VAT registered here. But other than that, there's not much else to consider because you yourself as a business are based in the UK. We have a question from Marja from Facebook Messenger, who says, I read somewhere that I can ask clients for a security deposit. Is it a lot of businesses that do that, and do you think that's a good idea? I just had my first client that's been very late with a payment, and I want to ensure that won't happen again in the future with future clients. Also, as small businesses, what are your thoughts about late payment fees? So you can get security deposits from clients depending on what kind of business or industry you're in. There are many that do this. The only thing is, legally, you should be keeping that in a holding account, just because that can be disputed later on down the line. For example, they're not happy with the overall service, or technically that's not yours until the service has been completed. So it's contingent, basically, as you said, security deposit. So you need to make sure, if you, to help yourself out, if you have in your bank account an option to put money aside. And we use, as a firm, we use Starling, and it's got spaces within the app which allows you to move money that you kind of don't want to think about of it as yours to one side until it's crystallized, so until the service or goods have been delivered. So that's one way to help you out, but at least you've got something just in case. It could be that the service is half complete, so you would be due to charge, for example, for half of your fees anyway. And once that's decided, that's when that money becomes yours. But of course, you can take security deposits. Just be careful with that in making sure you don't spend it. But it's good there as a security. In terms of those with late payments and late payment fees, it depends. So some people worry that this could ruin your relationship with the client, but if clients are consistently late, by saying that we will impose late payment fees, if you do it once, then hopefully that will entice them to ensure that it won't happen again. But even if you tell them at the beginning, if it's late, we will enforce late payment fees, in a lot of cases, that shows your clients that you're serious as a business. And it's important how you speak to them at the beginning. If you're frank with them to say, listen, we will charge this if it's not paid, because at the end of the day, you want a service or a good from us. We won't be able to provide you with what you want if you're going to pay us late, because if everyone did, how can I provide you with that service? And a lot of the time they do understand, and just because you've had that conversation with them, it makes they appreciate you a lot more because you're being honest and open with them. And a lot of the time they may have their own businesses as well, so they will understand that. But late payment fees are great, I think, for those that are serial late payers, shall we say, to try and help them pay earlier. We have a question from Obi from Twitter, who said, hey Eriona, I just started as a freelance web developer. Would you say it's necessary to create a cash flow budget? It seems like a tough cookie to crack as I haven't been up and running for long. A lot of people underestimate cash flow projections and budgets in general. They're actually so important. If you have this information, on a daily basis, you're able to make much better informed decisions for your business, because you're able to see, how much cash you have available. Cash and profits are very different. You could be very profitable as a company, but you're getting paid late, for example, and the cash is not coming in for you to be able to sustain the work or the income that you're generating, or the work that you're doing. So QuickBooks within it actually has a cash flow feature, which we use as a basic tool for our clients who really want to know more. But there are other apps as well, which can be used. So we use Fluidly as well, which integrates with QuickBooks, and it takes your data and it gives you projections for 3 months or 12 months, depending on however much you want, and you can really play around with it. So if you have in your plans to employ somebody or to buy some new equipment, you're able to put that in and see how your cash flow will be affected based on the current cash that you have. And the software is quite intuitive itself, so it sees what you've been doing in the past and how likely that's to continue. If you haven't been up and running for long, I would say cash flow is probably important anyway for you, because hopefully you're going to be up and running again very soon as we start to, as lockdown starts to ease and businesses start to get up and running again, and they're going to want to be doing a lot more advertising and things like that. So I think it's important for you just to know where you are now and what you can and can't do, and those scenarios, by adding income, adding expenses, to play around with it, and you'll be able to see what you will and will not be able to do depending on different scenarios. So if anything, if you have that knowledge now, it can only help your business. But I do believe that cash flow forecasts and budgets are really important in a business if you're going to make the best informed decisions for your business. We have a question from Tage from Facebook, who says, my friend is an illustrator and sells her art and has made a calculation over her profit margin. Can I do that as a freelance copywriter? I'm hoping to get some clients within the next couple of months. So yeah, of course, it's still, although it's a different kind of service, it's similar in the way that it works. So you can do that. There is kind of no problem with working in the same way. So yeah, so as I've mentioned, you can absolutely do that. It's great, as with the previous question, if you're able to put some projections in on how much you need to be charging or costing up your services to make sure that you're making enough of a profit beforehand, depending on the expenses that you have and depending on the kind of life that you want to have, so how much income you want to have disposable to you, and obviously looking at market rates as well. But yeah, absolutely. We have a question from Sarah from Facebook, who says, good morning, my company has grown quicker than I expected and I'm in a bit of a dilemma. I've landed a large client contract that is beyond my company's current capabilities and need 3 extra people, but I'm not sure I have enough cash to cover their wages if I don't get paid by the client in time. Have you come across this before, and what would you recommend? Yeah, this is actually a huge problem for businesses who are starting up, who get these big contracts, because a lot of the time you have to provide the service before you get paid. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, one of the ways could be to secure a small amount initially as a deposit, for example, so you have some money available. But apart from that, I would suggest considering loans as well. At the moment, the government is coming up with a new loan now, anyway, the Kickstart loan. But if not, there are, you're able to obtain small business loans just to help boost that cash flow for you for now. And as I mentioned with one of the questions from earlier, is try and set up yourself with a cash flow forecast, because of the fact that you can add in scenarios to say, I will get paid certain fees, so from this big client in 6 months' time, but I need staff now. How long can you go before you run out of cash? And once you know that, of course, this is just a forecast, so you may end up getting extra income in that time or not. But at least you can try and prepare yourself for the worst case scenario. And once you've identified when you would run out of cash, you can use that information to then apply for a small business loan from your business bank, or there are many providers out there. It may not need to be significant for the time being, but something just to inject some cash to help you going. And one of the things that banks will look for is, obviously, why do you want this? If you have a contract that's signed and agreed in place, they have to honor it, under contract law up to a certain amount. So that will help provide some security to the banks for the reasons that you want this loan. And this is something that a lot of businesses struggle with at the beginning, because this can go into over trading, and they want to provide a great service, but they can't. So I would suggest that that's something that you can do at the moment. But also speak to your customer if they're able to pay you in installments as well. For example, what we do with our clients is to help spread the cost for our clients and help ease cash flow for us as well, because we've got staff to pay and many other expenses. We don't want to kind of leave our payment until the end of the year, until we do the accounts, because we're going to be doing things like payroll, VAT, and so on throughout the year. Then we have a fixed fee, and they pay us in installments over 12 months. So by the time we actually complete all of our service, they've actually paid for it as well, and they don't have a huge bill at the end of the year as well to pay us. So it's a lot more manageable for both sides. If that's something that your client can consider, definitely put that to them. It all depends on your pricing strategies and how you get paid generally. A lot of businesses, when they do start up, as I've mentioned, they give that credit at the beginning, but you don't have enough credit to yourself to be providing that credit to your customers. So you need to start thinking about getting payments earlier, or in monthly, if you're going to grow as well. And when you grow rapidly, cash is really difficult to control. So if you can, try to sort that issue now, so you give yourself that opportunity to grow even more. So we have a question from Kenzo from Twitter, who says, making your company digital, are there any tools you recommend that have helped your journey? So there are loads of tools. We started our journey actually a few years ago, so it's taken some time. But when you are an established business, it is very difficult to turn yourself into a cloud-based digital business. If you're starting up from scratch, it's a lot easier, because your processes that you're putting in place, you're going to put them in place with having in mind of having that technology in place. Whereas we had to really scrap everything that we were doing and get into change everything based on new technologies. So obviously, the main thing we started off with was actually QuickBooks. That was our bread and butter, and then we added other softwares around this. It depends on which industries you're in, but this is what we're going through with our clients as well. We're starting off with that and making sure you have a proper CRM in place. Many small businesses don't have a client database with client information that they can contact their clients in the future, or generate more sales, and to help with deadlines and things like that. So CRM is really important. Advertising and marketing, things like MailChimp and social media, are also really important, and they're inexpensive. But also other apps, for example, like collecting your fees or for the services or goods you've provided, things like Go Cardless are really important, and really help to ease the process of collecting fees without feeling too awkward speaking to your clients and asking for your money, and not having an extra expense of having someone employing someone just to chase your income. And also card payment facilities are really important as well. But this all depends on what kind of business you're in, and we provide advice to our clients depending on their industries and what they need, and then identify which softwares are important to them. I believe now I've run out of time, so I'm going to have to wrap that up now. So for the poll that we had up, so that the results are in, we asked you, have you ever sacrificed anything for your employees? And 100% of you answered yes. This is not surprising. Many businesses, when they first start up, or business owners, will have difficult periods within the business journey, where you're going to have to possibly sacrifice your own pay, for example, or time, to ensure that your employees, are happy, not being overworked, and get their pay on time. Because if they don't have these elements, they're not going to be doing a great job for you, or won't be as happy, and won't do as good a job as they could do. So a lot of the time you have to sacrifice many elements to ensure that your employees have the best opportunity and the best environment to give their best for your business. So thank you all for tuning in this morning. If you have any questions, then please do get in touch with myself directly through our website, majorsaccounts.com, where we also have a news section. So for any new things and news that's coming out, please do check it out. We update that as and when news does come out. We've also got our own app, which you can download through our website as well, which also has great calculators and also information on there too. And we're also on all social media platforms, so on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn and Twitter. Now, coming up on Ask the Expert tomorrow is Charlie Dimitriou, who is founder of Zero Store. She set up in 2018 after noticing a local demand for eco-friendly shopping. So tune in to get advice on how to build a sustainable retail business from her. A reminder that if you need any more advice, please do join the official Intuit QuickBooks SME community group on Facebook, where there are accountants and business experts on hand 24/7. I really enjoyed answering your questions this morning, and I hope you all have a great day.